Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Unstoppable Mindset. Tonight, we are going to be talking about mind-blowing myths that keep racism alive. Mind-blowing myths that keep racism alive. And so I have a panel with me tonight, and this is going to be a dynamic conversation. And what I want you to consider is, have you been surprised throughout the this year or in 2020 at the rise and increase of racism, oppression, and behavior that may have just surprised you? One of the things I kind of asked myself was that when people feel stressed, when people feel like situations in their life aren't going the way they wanted to, which we saw a lot, do they tend to become more oppressive, more difficult, less tolerant of others? So that is going to be our conversation today. I have 4 panelists with me. And so as you jump on, please let us know where you're joining us from, what platform you're joining us from. And also, please let us know what you do, what part of the world you're from, and who you are called to serve if you're an entrepreneur, or what you do while you're living. The other thing I'm going to ask you to do is to share this live and really do take a moment and bless a life. Invite someone into the conversation. Why? Because I think this is a really important conversation in terms of spreading information that's valuable to each and every one of us. If you're listening to the replay, I'm going to ask you first to hashtag replay. Welcome. And also, when you like what you hear, definitely go ahead and share this information with a friend, a colleague, share it on your page. Let's just disperse it. As you come in as well, please let us know who you are, where you're joining us from, what platform, what part of the world, and what you do while you're living, who you are called to serve. So, the other key thing is join the conversation, participate in the conversation, comment, ask questions, let us know what's on your mind, let us know what we might be stimulating as you hear the dialogue unfold. So let's jump right into it. As I said, my name is Suzan Hart. Welcome to Unstoppable Mindset. And our conversation today is mind-blowing myths that keep racism alive. Now, I'll say to you, this is for you if you are a leader who wants to have an impact in your community. This is for you if you have been shocked or maybe struggling with what you're seeing in the world, and you definitely want to make a difference. Okay? This conversation is really going to dive in and focus on some of the oppressive and different and somewhat racist behaviors we saw in 2020 that surprised people. People were saying they were surprised at the way their neighbors were behaving and what their neighbors were saying. And for some, it was the first time they actually saw a difference and a divide in their community. So we're going to dive into it. So I'm going to introduce my panel, and I'm going to start at the top. And the top, we're going to go to Florida to introduce you to my friend Anila Nicklos. And Anila is a diversity trainer, and this is a topic that I know is very dear to her heart. Then, of course, everybody knows my gal, social media strategist, Turiya Hodge. She is going to be hanging out with us tonight. And Turiya and I have been in this conversation all year in 2020, and I made a commitment to continue this conversation in 2021. Then we're going to go to La Belle Province, au Québec, from my best friend, a longtime friend of over 40 years, Miss Cindy Salter.
Hello.
Yes, and we're going to be talking a little bit about our journey together and some of the things that we've seen and experienced. Then at the bottom, we're going to go north to Ottawa. And this is the Dekker team, Ken and Yetta Dekker. This is two of my favorite people. We have known each other for, it would seem like a short time, but in many ways, the depth of the relationship feels like a long time. So welcome to everyone. I want to start by just saying thank you, because as I dove into this conversation. I said to each and every one of you, in 2021, I'm going to keep this conversation alive because it's near and dear to my heart. And I truly believe unless we get in communication about this issue, it's still going to go underground. And when we do nothing, nothing changes. And we can't point the finger at other people to create change. We have to be that change. So that's kind of where this conversation began. And each and every one of you said, what can I do to help? How can I serve? How can I participate? And of course, I felt totally blessed. So welcome to each and every one of you. So let's dive right into the first question, or the first myth, right? And I'm going to start with Yetta, Ken and Yetta, as I put this question out there, because we were having this conversation, and what I love about Ken and Yetta is just their transparency, their authenticity, their willingness to just be honest in the conversation. So the question I had was, why do people say that they don't see color? Oftentimes when people talk to me, they say to me, well, I don't see color. And I will tell you, I look at them like, like, how is that even true? So when I had that conversation with I think it started with Yetta and then Ken, share a little bit about your perspective on that.
Well, it's changed a little bit. So the good news is I'm willing to look foolish to be truthful. So let's start with that right there. So the first time Dan and I had that conversation, it was as we were getting to know each other and as we were realizing the commonalities we had, and I almost had the same name she has, and we had a lot of similar experiences as immigrant kids. And so when that conversation came up, I said, well, no, I don't see color. And she went,
I think, Suzan, you should have brought out the chocolate milk and the white milk. Is there any difference between these two?
Absolutely.
And it ensued a great conversation because she didn't just stare at me for 10 minutes. She actually then said, oh, say more. And so as we unpacked it, what I was referencing was it's not a problem. It doesn't matter to me whether somebody is Native Canadian or whether somebody is from Iceland, which some of my family members are, or whether they're from Africa, which lots of our friends are. I mean, I've got several spiritual sons and daughters, and none of them look like me because in our culture, it's not common to have moms that aren't actually your parents. But in lots of cultures, it's very common. So I'm the mom to a lot of children, and none of them look like me except the two I gave birth to. And so really what I was saying is I welcome everybody. It's not an issue. And yet, of course, I see color because there's beauty in color. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I realized the error of my languaging, really, because my mind was okay. It's just my languaging was really off in an attempt to make it okay. Well, of course it's okay. Our beauty is in our uniqueness, not so much just our sameness. Because if we're all the same, one of us is redundant, huh?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I love that. And you know, one of the things I really loved about when we had this conversation was I was able to say to you that when people say that to me, I don't think you see my beauty, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the dichotomy for me is that I know that when people first meet me, the first they see is a Black woman. So when they say to me, I don't see color, I'm like, well, what are you looking at? and I love, you know, and I love the fact that we were able to have that conversation and talk a little bit more about what it meant for me. I'm gonna just go back to you guys. What did you take away? Like what's different for you now? Because I think that's why we're modeling these conversations. What's different in like how you see that? I'm gonna ask Ken this time.
Okay, your turn. Because you didn't say the same thing, right?
I didn't say the same thing, and yet I understood what you meant by what you said, and that is we have friends of all different cultures and races, and really we don't treat them differently. We love all of them the same. We have deep conversations, deep relationships, and we're into the self-help, self-development, helping people with their growth, their relationship, in their marriages or their family relationships. And what we found is it doesn't matter. You have kind of what we think is intimate to ourselves and our unique issues are universally around the globe when it comes to relationships and how to deal with a spouse or a child or whatever. There are some cultural differences, but universally our thoughts are similar.
And you know, and it's interesting because I think what it is we connect on our similarities, but yet I think our beauty and our giftings are in our difference. And so it's just really neat to really kind of unpack that. And part of the reasons I wanted to highlight it is because I hear it so often. And I know if I ask Turiya, we're like, that just irks me. That just like annoys me when I hear it.
And I love that you had the space in our relationship to say, you know what, that kind of hurts, it kind of offends. Let's talk this out. And I think that's a beautiful thing. It shows the depth of relationship. And like you said, we've only known each other for, I don't know, 14, 15 months, something like that.
Yeah. And the depth of our relationship occurred rather quickly. And I think the reason it did was for exactly this that we're doing, is that we have been able to stretch each other and ask each other questions and have truthful conversations, even when they're challenging. Right. And I think that's the important thing.
Without taking offense.
Yes.
That's the beauty in how you handled the conversation. There was no offense taken. It's just, here's what's up for me.
Yeah.
What's up for me. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll never say that again. I promise.
And thank you for pointing that out, because I think that's the key, right? Is we don't know what we don't know until someone has the courtesy to say it to us so that we're open, versus making us feel like they've been offended in a deep, like it's creating that space. So thank you for pointing that out. I want to go to Anila, because what are your thoughts on this? Because I don't think we've had this conversation. But what are your thoughts on when you hear that?
Yes, thank you, Suzanne. We haven't had this conversation, and I'm truly inspired by what Yetta and Ken and you have done and how you have discussed this issue. I think when people say colorblind, they think they are being inclusive, when in reality, they are actually denying the identity of someone. They're denying who they are, the beauty in their color, the beauty in their history, the beauty in where they come from. So I think we need to focus and really have these conversations. How does it make me feel when you say color blind to me? In relation to me as an immigrant, if somebody is color blind, not color blind, but ethnic blind, blind, it's almost as saying, you know what, I don't care where you're from, but to me, that's so close to my heart, because part of me grew up in another country. I am so connected with the traditions, with our customs. I think they have value. So saying color blind to someone, the myth is that you are being inclusive, but the truth is you have to recognize the person for everything that person brings to the table.
And you bring up a really interesting point, because you are the person who kind of blends in, you and Yetta, until both of you open your mouth. And then people are like, Oh, right. And I think it is that same thing, is that we all want to be seen for our whole self.
Yes.
And for me, a whole self is the fact that I have this cocoa brown skin that I absolutely adore. And for you, it's like, I may look like you, but I am different in terms of culture, ethnicity, all these different things that are so important. And that's where Yetta and I connected, was we connected in a deep way in our differences, and then also in our similarities, because our differences created some common experiences. So I love what you're saying. Thank you. I'm going to go to Cindy, because Cindy.
Oh boy. I'm trying to think, how am I going to answer this question? Yeah.
We've been like friends forever, and I know. So just to give a backdrop, Cindy is like my protector, big sister in some ways, and so when she would hear people say this to me, what was your reaction?
Oh, I'll keep it clean. It's a lot insulting, I find. And I would say to myself, you don't see color, but that's the first thing you see.
Mm-hmm.
But I would get very, very angry about that. But then I started to try and understand, well, why is it that they're saying that? And I think, like what Anila said, I think it's because that they're trying to be inclusive. Like they say, oh, my best friend's Black, or stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
But you and I, we grew up together. So I'm like typical craft dinner, right? So I'm as white as they get. And so and Sue and I did everything together. And I witnessed firsthand the treatment of her. And it just was not acceptable to me.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gotten into a few not altercations, but certainly some
Difficult situations?
Difficult, disruptive type of situations.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just, when I see these type of things happen to somebody who I know, and they don't even know you, and yet they're discounting the thing that makes you you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all, as human beings, just want to be seen and heard. And personally, I think that would you say that to somebody? It's like, you want to be treated. I act the way I want to be treated, and I would never let somebody say these negative things to somebody and just stand by and let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's embarrassing a little bit too, because it's guilty by association, right? Because and
that's such a powerful thing to say, guilty by association, because I think that's often where we get stuck, right?
Yeah.
Is that people feel guilty by association, so they don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't know what to say, so they say these things because they're like, I'm not like that group over there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see color, and I intellectually get it, but my heart doesn't get it.
Yeah, because as a white person, it's one of my biggest fears is for somebody to think that I'm racist, that when you talked about that face of racism, because I've always associated racism with these mean people and these bullies and these people that are ignorant, and I don't want to be considered that. So I'll say, no, I'm not racist. But racism goes way beyond that. But we'll discuss that after.
Yeah,
and that I don't see color is insulting.
And I think
I love your color.
and that's exactly what I was going to say. You know, as we grew up, one of the things, so Cindy's Miss Fashionista, right? You'll get to know her. She's the bling girl. She's like all about her fashion. And Cindy was probably the first person who would say to me, you know what, Sue, let's get this because of the color of your skin. Let's get this because of the texture of your hair. Like, she was one of the first people to see me in my totality, other than my mother. You know, we're all beautiful and amazing to our mother. And so for her, it was like, I see you. I see all of you. I respect all of you. And I would watch the visceral reaction in her when people would say things to me, and I'd be like, okay, relax, girl, it's okay. And she was like, no, it's not. And so it's really unpacking that conversation. So thank you.
And I have biracial children, so you know, I have real skin in the game. It's important. I want my girls to be able to be proud of both their cultures, their Canadian and their West Indian.
Yeah, and that's a whole other life.
Oh my goodness,
that's a life. Absolutely.
You know, because I grew up with your family, with your mom, your uncle, and my in-laws, my aunties, my uncles. You know, it's hard for me when you have a face and you love someone, and that face is the same, looks like that face, and somebody else is dissing and disrespecting and being mean to. It's hard to take and just turn your cheek. It's difficult.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
Yeah.
We're gonna come back because I mean, we got a live on by ourselves on that whole friendship thing and journey. But I'm gonna Turiya. And Turiya, what's your take on this? Like, what is it for you? And you know, Turiya and I, we're like, we got Coco and Coco, right? and I remember when we were having this conversation, you said being dark skinned only was popular in the past like 3 years.
Yes. All of a sudden it's in now, right? But I love what Cindy shared. And I really think that it's that thing that, you know, no one, or at least most people, don't want to think of themselves as being racist, right? So to say I don't see color, it is an attempt to be safe. And if you know me, I'm kind of like the envelope pusher, kind of like the rebel rouser. And my experience with this question or this comment, I always take it back, you know, to religion all the time, right? And I say, well, okay, great. So Jesus is black. And you know what? The most amazing thing, people say, I don't see color. He could be green. He could be blue. He could be purple. He could be every other color they would name, but they would never say that Jesus is black.
Mm-hmm. Wow, interesting.
Yeah. And I always thought that was very interesting, like how difficult, you know, of a conversation and the underlying feeling of acceptance. Okay. So sometimes, like I said, I don't think like as if it's like sometimes they give it like really thought of what they're saying, but it's comfortable and it's safe. Right. And I want to, you know, avoid ruffling feathers or being looked at a certain way, but yet still, you know, you just can't see it. So I agree. Like you cannot not see color. You cannot not dismiss, you know, a whole race, you know, of people and their contribution. So.
And can I say something? Because I don't know how many people of my complexion, how many millions and billions of dollars they spend to get your color.
Cindy, my dear, that's a whole totally different conversation.
So how can you
the features, everything? Yeah, it's.
And how many people perm their hair? How many billions of dollars? And yet all of a sudden it's not a nice thing. Everybody knows they look better with a tan.
And you know, it's so complex.
Come
right?
on.
It is so complex.
Don't get me going now, Sue.
Hot now.
But it is such a complex conversation.
Sure.
And I think what we're really talking about is acknowledging difference, if you will. And I'd love for you to chime in on this. But one of the things that it's like, I was thinking about how when we come to a new country, there is an expectation, and this is going to be a live that I do later on, but there's an expectation that we blend in, right?
Mm.
Become part of. And so when I hear that I don't see color, or I don't recognize your culture, I don't see all that, what I feel like is they're saying, I don't see it because I want you to blend in. I don't want you to show up and ruffle feathers. I don't want your difference to be a conversation. I just want you to be and look like us. Well, I don't. And so it leaves this space where you're here and you're like, but I can't blend in. I could try for all my life. And we won't talk about, the straightening of the hair, the lightening of the skin, the this, the that, as people try to blend in.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the impact of those conversations.
Right.
But I wanted to go to Yetta and Ken around that because, and Anila, because it is no matter where we come from. We're talking color because color is, it's definite for me. But we don't really want to blend in, do we?
God, I hope not.
So yeah, like we don't really want to blend in.
Well, we really don't. I know for me,
I
I was thinking about as everybody was speaking, if I hear somebody 3 or 4 rooms away or in a shopping mall and I hear the accent or I hear a phrase and I know they're speaking Danish, I feel drawn across the mall or across the party or wherever to get close to what feels familiar to me because it's home. And I don't want somebody to say, I don't want you to be Danish anymore. Like, what are you talking about? So there is a comfort in being connected with our heritage, whatever that is. And so I think it is important, regardless of what I said earlier, it is really, really important to embrace and appreciate the differences because I love hearing about the culture, the types of foods. And yeah, it's fun to find the commonalities, but it's actually more interesting to find what is dissimilar, even if not as comfortable at first.
Mm-hmm.
Back onto this color, seeing color, it was interesting. I was just thinking, I was in Africa. How long ago was that, honey? I don't know. 6 years ago or so, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I guess it's more like 10. But anyway.
Wow. I like that you count, Ken.
I was in Kenya and I became aware of my lack of color or my color because now I'm the only person other than me and 3 other people that were on the trip with me that are Caucasian. And so we're an extreme minority and we're in very small communities that, we're born there, stay there, and we're assisting. But to them, like I know when Yetta first went, the babies were crying because they saw, to them what might have been a ghost because it's just unknown, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that made me aware of my color.
And what you're highlighting for us, it's all relative, right? It is all relative. Like when I go home, I'm like, I just love going home because I'm like, I'm home. Everybody looks like me. We have similar food and so on and so forth. And what strikes me is the Caucasian white person that speaks with a West Indian accent. And I'm like, right? And so what we're talking about is difference is relative and to where we are in the world. But no matter where we go, I think what humanity wants is to be seen.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right? For their whole self, not for the self that fits. And I think that's what we're really highlighting is, when you go to African, yes, you're definitely different. Suddenly it's like things flip. You still want to be seen for all your difference.
Yes.
And as your whole person. Right? That's a beautiful point. I want to move on because we could stay right here on this topic for the whole call. But I want to talk about, and Cindy alluded to it when she joined us. So, people will often say that, there's a myth that people who are racist are mean, they are evil, they are the lynchers, the people who are, just clearly racist. They want to harm people. And one of the things that we know is that's not the case. And I really wanted to spend some time unpacking that because I think it comes back to, why I get upset when people tell me they don't see my color. And I'm thinking, that's a kind of racist thing to say. And someone would say, well, I'm not racist. And I think it's that slippery slope that we all have to navigate. So what do you think of the myth? Do you think that there is a belief that a person who's racist is just a really mean out to get you person?
Suzanne, I'd like to just share an example. When I moved to America, that's when I first started to hear about the Black community's history in America. I was completely unaware. And I remember one of the professors I met with, she was Black, and she shared with me several examples from her life. But one of the very first examples, and then later on, I was able through my work to get even deeper into it, that really resonated with me was that racism is taught. And racism is taught. So you have a white child and a Black child, they play together up to a certain age, and then all of a sudden, then you see this shift. And so I think we have a lot of work to do in that regard. And then another example could be that there are people that think they're anti-racist, they don't see color, they welcome differences. But then if someone in their family happens to date somebody from the Black community, then are you sure? Is this a good idea? Do you know where your boyfriend comes from? Do you know their family? What are their family values? And then everything starts to unpack and unfold in real life. So can we say really that everyone that is racist is a mean person, or can we say is racism taught? Can we focus on how to tackle that? And then on a very different note, I will share with you examples of people that are very close to me, and then they even know that I do a lot of work in the diversity, equity, and inclusion field. And as they talk about the Black community, I realize how much they don't know about the Black community. And I would invite each one of them to really be compassionate and learn about the Black community, because there's so much beauty into it. Even though I've started so much in school, it's through the conversations I've had with my friends that I've learned firsthand how important the work of the Black community has been for America, how important, how foundational, how much the Black community has actually contributed to make America this democracy, this state that it is. All the achievements of Black scientists that may have not been already celebrated the way they should have been celebrated, but you cannot deny their value.
Mhm. And you're making a great point, and I think part of what is that taught it's conditioned, right?
Mhm.
And conditioning is it's like a fish is conditioned to swim in water, right? It's innate for a fish to swim in water. That's the best example that comes to mind. And the fish doesn't actually know they're in water, but we do. And I think it's that similar sort of thing is that we have a country that's been built on this fabric of institutional racism. It's a foundation, and it's not mean people. It's conditioned responses, it's conditioned beliefs, it's conditioned um, ways of being. And I think it's us. That's the first place to start. Is that it's not the myth that we think it's the bully, it's the bad person. It could be any one of us, really. So, Turiya, thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. It's the courage to challenge belief systems.
Mm.
And belief systems could come from anywhere. They could come from experiences, it could be cultural, it could be religious, anywhere. But here's the thing, why do we believe in the things that we believe in? And when I ask or start to challenge people or question people on that, it's like the hardest thing for people to even want to consider. So once again, if you are in, a location, you're in a country where racism is built into the fabric, right? Like, hey, that's what the country was founded off of, okay?
Mhm.
And then let's just be real. So now we're here, how many hundreds of years later? People don't know why they believe what they believe.
Isn't it true?
They just grow up thinking that this is the way it is. And so until, we all start, to have the courage to challenge what we believe, like challenge it is okay. You're not going to go to that bad place if you challenge, belief systems. And that's one of the things that, I'm even looking inward to myself to ask myself, like, why do I believe, some of the things that I believe? And if I didn't believe these things, then what would, the world look like? What would it be? And I think that that's where it all needs to start, is just taking a look and then examining, like, where do our beliefs come from? And then I want to say one more thing, because I know we're talking about racism from a black-white standpoint. This is why it's also so important to challenge belief systems, because not only do white people believe what they believe about black people, you have some black people who believe what white people believe about black people.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's the most mind-blowing conversation when I hear black people say racist things about black people. And I know it sounds funny because I it's just like, what? Like, how are you listening to yourself right now? Are you kidding me? Right? But that's, once again, the challenging of the belief systems. And if we're not courageous enough, to do that self-examination, then there will always be racism. And I think that was the question, right? Like, can we get rid of it? Is it here to stay, or is it something that can go away? And in my opinion, it wouldn't move. It will always be here until we are able to challenge our belief systems.
And I love the fact that you're saying it's all of us. And the question I asked is that people don't see color. And it's, people don't just say that to black people. I've watched them say it to other races of people, other people of, the spectrum of where we come from. And so whether that be an Asian, whether that be a black person, I see people say that. So it's not, yes, we're in Black History Month, but this is an issue that crosses all areas. And I really like the fact that you're talking about, the internalized racism, because yes, this isn't just one group of people's work. This is all of our work, because we all have our biases, we all have our beliefs, we all have our things we know and don't know. And I'm going to go back to Cindy for a moment, because we were talking last night as we were kind of bantering around this call, and I said, and we were like, it's not always been rosy. Cindy has said some things to me that was ouch. I've said some things to her that were ouch. I said some things to her that were probably hurtful to her as a white woman. She said things to me that were hurtful to hear as a Black woman. I think the piece of it, and Cindy, I really would love for you to speak to this, is our willingness to talk it through, and our willingness to say to each other, that hurt. That, like, I didn't like that. Like, I didn't like when you did that. It was that willingness to care enough about each other to stop and say, okay, we need to talk. And we've had some heart to hearts.
Yes. Yeah, we have. Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you want to add to that?
Well, yes, because those type of conversations, I always got present to the fact that I tended to disclude myself from these conversations about racism and stuff, because I didn't feel I was racist, right? Mm-hmm. And when I realized that, yes, I am racist, and that I have to work on myself first. And that's how come I believe we've been able to maintain, and our friendship has just grown and grown and grown over all these years, is because I think we're more committed to our friendship than we are about being right or getting our way or like that. But I think the biggest thing was, to me, is that I didn't realize I was being racist. Mm. And so I've become a lot more empathetic and compassionate and wanting to look deeper. And it's like, what's behind that? Like, why would you say something like that? And then, we've been able to work through things that way. And just being committed to I don't know, just being a better person, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because we're looking at it from this place, but I'm also present to my friend who is white, who will navigate life with me, and watching you also lose access, privilege. People don't want to hang out with you, don't want to do stuff because of this is who you chose to be a friend with.
Mm-hmm.
And watching you navigate it. And I think what made our friendship so powerful was to sit in the world of each other and watch the navigation happen. Like watch you clearly pissed off, hurt, upset. When you're choosing my friendship of me, had people deny you access or call you a name that you were like, what? Like, what's happening here, right? And I
think, like when we were at PNC,
right, and all black conference, and my friend comes with me, and people are looking at her like she's in the wrong room, wrong space.
Yeah, looking at my badge. Are you in the right conference?
And you.
That was an awesome experience.
Yeah, and you navigating it with me, and my consciousness of you, your consciousness of me, and our commitment to be friends. First and foremost.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it must start. Is even with like my relationship with Ken and Yetta, there's a bigger commitment to friendship and relationship than all the other stuff that comes with it. And there's a commitment to learn and grow, and I think I used this last time, but to make sure that we're always whole and complete. Yeah. So if I offend Yetta or Ken, unknowingly, and they know my heart, right? And I know their heart. It's not like it's out of malice. That being said, it doesn't mean there's no accountability.
Right. And you also have to realize, no, you don't have to realize, but it was a choice to I'm at choice in everything I do, but my choices have consequences. And I can't just do something for all the good stuff. I need to be present, and I need to be all in for the not so easy stuff. And I think we experienced that firsthand. Like, oh, so is that what's going to happen? But I think also that we're sort of like not leading the way, but if we can do it, maybe other people will entertain the idea, oh, I never thought of that, or maybe I'll try it, or something a little bit more open, if you will, and be a little bit more curious. I know that Yetta, I loved her line on one of the lives that she did, and she said that you can't mandate or legislate curiosity with people. But I think if we had this, what's it called, Anila?
Compassionate curiosity.
Compassionate curiosity, yeah. So if everybody had compassionate curiosity about everyone, I think we could get on our way to eliminating racism. But wow. And then we can go work on world peace after that.
Well, I think kind of
that would be world peace right there.
Hunger.
Yeah, then we solve hunger.
Your answer,
right?
All that easy stuff.
I want to, and anyone can chime in, but Cindy, you said something so key in the discussion, is that it's the commitment to do the hard stuff.
Yes.
It's the commitment to do the work. So who wants to jump in on that? Because I think, if we were to say, can we eliminate racism? It is the commitment to do the hard stuff.
Yes.
I just very quickly will share. I think just our platform tonight and our love for one another and our recognition of one another's differences and how much we celebrate one another, I think it's a great example for others to follow. How do you talk about the uncomfortable things? Okay, you said it, you didn't mean it. How can you learn from the situation? What are some of the things that you can take from that conversation and make yourself better, and then commit? On another note, I just want to say that as we talk about this very important things, we understand that being colorblind and thinking that you're anti-racist and not realizing that there is a structural, institutional racism, you don't understand the connection that all these three elements, all these three factors play in the lives of the Black community. So it's not just relationships, it's every part of the Black community's life, economically, health-wise, socially. So we really have to be very intentional about having the sort of relationship that the six of us have with one another, and then become the examples for others to follow.
I'm glad you said that, because this is why I decided to kind of start this conversation and to bring my friends along with me, is because institutional change is not within my control today.
No.
But changing my the minds and hearts of my network are within my control.
Correct.
And this is what I do believe. If I change the minds and hearts of my network, and someone in my network goes and changes the hearts of another network, and someone else goes and has a conversation with her friends. So, for example, Ken and Yetta and I had a conversation. I know you went off and you had a conversation with some of your friends. You know, I know Virginia was on, and when we talked, Virginia commented on the live, and a conversation was had there, and it kind of had this ripple effect. And what I do know is that institutional change, institutions, churches, government, are people, right? They're not brick and mortar. They're people. So if we want change, there's change at the government level, but change at the government level is often put on by pressure of people. So these conversations are essential for our own awareness, so that because it's not I don't think it's if we're waiting for it to be top down, we're going to be waiting a long time. But when we start making change from bottom up, things will tip. But it's these conversations. So that's where my commitment lies. Other thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna jump in and share, right? And I love what Cindy said. Cindy said, you know, the ability to be all in, and no matter what, right? And Cindy, like, that's the foundation of relationships, right? Like, that's what we, you know, commit to. Like when we have our kids, like, we're gonna be all in for you, no matter what. When we get married, that's what we say to our spouse, right? We're gonna be all in no matter what. But here's the thing: you can say you could be all in, when the stuff, like when the rubber hits the road, your actions gonna prove that you're all in. And so it's one thing to have conversations that create ripple effects of conversations, you know, amongst people, and you have discussions. I agree. Like, that's a beautiful, beautiful place to start. But when we start to think about government institutions and we start moving up the ladder, and then people start to see, how do these things affect them personally? Then we get into that other P word that's called privilege.
Power and privilege.
Right. And so when the power and when the privilege, you know, is affected or is it taken away, do you still have the ability to be all in? And therein lies the rub.
And I agree. I totally agree, and I'm just feeling like I need to talk to Ken and Yetta right now, because they're you know, I mean, all in relationships, all in all sorts of things. What does that mean? And I want to go to you guys, because you know you guys do relationships and you work with couples. But what does all in really mean? Because we kind of I love language, and we throw things around. And because no matter whenever we're all in, there is a power struggle.
Yes.
Right? There is a power struggle. So can you guys shed a little bit of light on all in?
That's like a whole live. It's a whole month worth of lives.
I know, but just give us a little, like, what does that mean?
It's rare these days. It's rare that people are their word, their commitment. All in means I'm committed no matter what. Whether the person has Alzheimer's or the person has cancer, or we see people leaving a spouse or a partner because they got sick. Well, that's not all in. All in, for better, for worse, sickness and health, financial problems, goodness, whatever it is, all in is rare. And I get what Cindy said, you know, like sometimes maybe Cindy's privilege was reduced because of her choice of being inclusive. And being all in says, yeah, well, you don't like my friend, then you don't like me, and I'm out of here. Right? That's all in. And I think that's people are rare with their commitment, Like, you know, like if you invite somebody to a party, they say, yeah, I'll try and be there. Are they going to be there? Probably not, because they're not all in. Or maybe they say yes, but then a better party comes up with someone they'd rather be with. And they go, oh, something came up, I can't make it anymore. Well, that wasn't all in. And, I just think we're in a place where every time you make a change in your decision that says, you know, I'm all in what I eat, but then I'm going to, you know, oh, as long as there isn't salted caramel chocolate on the table, then I'm okay. You know, like, then I'm not really all in. And every time we make a decision that says I'm not all in, the brain goes, oh, it's okay not to be all in. Their integrity is not that important to me. My integrity is not that important to me. And so when I make a mistake or when I break my commitment, then I've got to go, whoa. That's not okay. I got to come clean on that and recommit. It's about recommitting over and over and over again. And when I have a thought that I go, maybe that's a little bit racist. Maybe that's just because I'm uncomfortable because I'm not familiar with that culture, or I haven't had a relationship with somebody of that culture before. That's racism in its truest form, not programmed, just uncomfortable because I don't have that fierce curiosity of wondering what their life is like, where they came from, and the richness of learning that is a beautiful thing, whether it be race or even religion. I've had some beautiful conversations with people of different religious faith than I have. And just because I was curious, we create a friendship and a bond that instead of our different faiths making us be different and apart, we actually became friends because of curiosity.
Yeah.
I love it. And you know, that whole concept of all in, I think is a conversation in and of itself, as you said. Because we're at the top of the hour, and all in is not convenient. That's what I want to say.
No, it's certainly not
convenient. All in is not status quo. All in often includes a loss of power, and the loss of some privilege. All in is uncomfortable. All in involves not looking good. All in actually sometimes has you feel excluded when you're accustomed to being included. All in is a different kind of all in, particularly when we're talking about relationships that have an additional layer of race, culture, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation. We can give you the list that goes on. And I think what we're really bringing to the forefront is, when we're challenged by language, and we want to run in the other direction, or we want to say something that makes us feel good, that's the time to go, you know what? I need to go all in here, right? I need to, be aware of what I'm saying. When someone challenges me on what I said to them, all it means to go, tell me more about that. It's all those things. And I think all in on both parts is a willingness not to be so offended that you can't move the conversation along.
Yeah.
right.
That's all in. And
We've always said that to each other.
yeah,
Nothing you can't say, and there's nothing I can't hear.
Right.
Yeah.
And I really want people to get that. Cindy's always said this to me, there's nothing you can't say and there's nothing I can't hear. And so all in is living in that space of navigating those pieces and being in even when you're so pissed at the other person that it's like, okay, I need to walk away from you right now. I need a minute. I'll be back. I might need 2 hours. I'll be back. Right? Are we all in that way? Because this is not an easy topic, but we can't be waiting for, the government's going to legislate us feeling better about each other, right? The government's going to legislate us being unconditioned, right? The government's going to legislate us spending more time together.
Right.
They tried that. That was called integration of schools. That's not working. Because at the end of the day, They can't legislate compassion. They can't legislate understanding. They can't legislate curiosity. They can't legislate an openness to say, I didn't mean that. Help me. Like, what did I do that was like? They can't legislate that. That's our work. And what I love about all of you is you're willing to do the work, right? Or you're willing to do the work. We have Facebook users out there, and Cindy, you're getting some kudos. They're like, Cindy, you're so right. Whoops, there we go. To recognize it in ourselves internally. Anila and Suzan, you're very right that we need to change what we have control to change, and the people and we'll change the people around us. Someone's like, all in. I love it. I hear you, Ken and Yetta, all in. Being a man and woman of their word, so powerful, and it falls with you last. It's in alignment with the last talk of being consistent, right? Wow. When I started this journey, I tell everybody I was a little nervous. I was like, oh goodness. And it's interesting. I had a conversation with another friend today, and he was like, I want to join the conversation. I want to be part of this conversation. I want to help out with this conversation. And it is keeping it alive. And am I 100% right? I don't know. Am I 100% wrong? Definitely not.
Yeah.
But what I do know is I'm challenging Suzan to create a bridge. I'm challenging Suzan, and I'm challenging all my friends to create a bridge. I'm challenging all my friends to be open to look at themselves. I'm challenging all my friends to have difficult conversations. I'm challenging all my friends to care enough about each other to say what needs to be said.
Right.
I'm challenging my friends to move the needle. So as my friends, I want to say I adore all of you, and thank you so much for just holding the space and being part of this conversation. And for those of you who joined us tonight, thank you so much for spending some time with us and hanging out. Continue to put your comments in the comment sections, because we go and visit and we will comment back and chat things up. So definitely do that. My name is Suzan Hart. I have been sitting down with the Dekker team, DoubleDekker, Ken and Yetta Dekker, Cindy Salter, my dearest friend of 40 plus years, Anila Nicklos, diversity trainer from Florida, and Turiya, Hodge, social media strategist. And this is Unstoppable Mindset, where we have conversations that are designed to have you reset your thinking, totally reset your thinking. My commitment is to have you be unstoppable. And what that means is that no matter what comes your way, challenge, breakdown, that you're going to set yourself up for a breakthrough by shifting your mindset and living life with passion and purpose. So my guest next week is Brother Bedford. We're going to be talking about race and economics. That conversation is going to be on. It's going to be on.
That's going to be a part 1 and part 2 for sure.
That is going to be
I love that guy.
That is going to be fire. This brother is brilliant, and I'm excited to sit down to see him. So as we part, please remember, you are oh so brilliant. You are oh so special, and the world is waiting for you to put your unique gifts into the marketplace and into the world. Stay blessed. I see you, Farah. Thank you so much. And we will see you back here next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay.